Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Now on 88.5 FM, The Valley Comes Alive. And podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.
All right, Talk and Power podcast, episode 117, rocketing along. And we've got some great guests in the studio. I'm joined by co-host Todd Brinkworth, he's over there. And I've got with us Jarrod Maclean, or better known as JMac, and James McDonald. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here.
Thanks, Nick.
It's a pleasure having you guys here. I know we've spoken with James before, and we've been, crossing paths over the years. We did
hard to avoid each other, isn't it?
It is really when you think about it. But hey, we did a quiz. Remember the quiz we did with the pod filter?
Yeah.
That was the last time we were on a podcast together. That's a few years ago now, a couple of years ago.
If I remember correctly, Department of Drift actually won that one.
You did?
Yeah, we did. And then we went out on a high and disbanded the podcast shortly after that.
We did another quiz a year later, and we lost that one as well, didn't we, Todd?
We lost that one pretty badly, actually.
Yeah, that one was terrible.
I think I dark horsed the first one, but the second time was no good, hey?
I blame Zoom for the second one.
Yeah.
We did it over Zoom.
I was going to blame the Italian sausage that was hanging in the ceiling.
Yeah, I know. Dad had just done them. Well, we had just done them the week before.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I digress. Hey, guys, it's great to have you here. On this podcast, you guys are representing the Riders Action Group of Western Australia.
That's right.
Doing some magnificent work. So, before we get into the nitty-gritty, tell us a little bit about the Riders Action Group and what you guys are fighting for.
Yeah, sure. So we're a very new group. We've only been sort of all together and working towards the goals for a couple of months now. But we formed together out of a desire to work with the community and work towards a common goal of raising the profile of motorcyclist rights in Western Australia.
And it's very important, isn't it, the work you're doing as well? Because, a lot of motorists these days, some of the statistics we'll go through shortly, but some of the incidence of accidents is quite apportioned to the motorist of a vehicle when we drill into the details. We'll get into that shortly. But so the work that you're doing is very important, and I must say, it's great to have you two guys in and representing the group.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a war on two fronts in a sense, because one, obviously safety is really important to a lot of motorcyclists, and we don't want to see anyone killed or seriously hurt on the roads, but we also need to protect our rights to personal choice as well when we're out on the road. So being able to be there and choose the sort of bike you want to ride and the sort of gear you want to ride when riding, and being able to choose something that's appropriate for the style of riding that you have. There's quite often, there's a one size fits all paintbrush that gets applied to motorcyclists, which doesn't always stack up.
To be honest with you, James, I'll be 100% honest with you. I had that mentality as well. So I don't ride motorbikes. I've never ridden motorbikes before. On farm, yes. I grew up in a market garden, but that doesn't count. So the point that I'm trying to make is that the layperson probably thinks that one size does fit all. So that's why it's important that you guys come on here tonight and explain. Now, I've got a few questions for you. I'll ask you when it's the appropriate time,
sure.
Just to explain, because to the layperson, I would think that one size does fit all. But we'll get to that a bit later. One of the things that I've always noticed with campaigns, we'll call them, TV campaigns, we always paint the motorcyclist as the campaign's pitched at the motorcyclist. I seem to remember a campaign, correct me if I'm wrong, not that long ago, it looked like some sort of black kryptonite growing out of the road, or it was a black, but that was pitched at the motorcyclist.
Yeah.
Do you think that we need to change the way we think and start pitching the message to the motorist of motor vehicles instead?
I guess it's a tough one to say. Yes, definitely, where all of the belief that riders do all that they can or as much as they can to not get hit or to crash, but also when we're thinking from a public safety standpoint, the rider is the easiest target group to market towards, because they're the ones most likely to change their behaviour, because they're the ones that will be most affected. So that's why you see advertising campaigns like that, which are focused towards the motorcyclists changing their behaviour. And yes, to a point, it will be more effective than a public safety campaign targeted towards car drivers to look twice for bikes or things like that. But it's and we'll probably talk about this in a moment, but it's not the main issue that's facing motorcyclists.
Okay, no, we will get to that. One of your aims is to be collaborative, active on social media. So tell us a bit about the group. It's not a formal group with a constitution and incorporation. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's more of an informal group. You do have a president, but yep.
Actually, funny you mentioned that, because we've just taken steps towards incorporating officially.
Okay.
Although, we started off as a non-incorporated body, and we're just a Facebook group for getting people's opinions and thoughts and ideas. But it's something we're currently looking into.
Yeah. Okay.
We've found that social media is the battleground that a lot of these initiatives are fought over and lost on, and I think one of the biggest things that motorcyclists, not just in Western Australia but around the country, around the world, have really been struggling for is to be consulted. And there's been initiatives, there's been campaigns, if you want to call them that have claimed to have consulted the general motorcycling public among the rest of the motorcycling or motoring population. But to be honest, the outreach has been frankly pitiful. And that is something that we as a group are looking to address and try and hold these bodies accountable to make sure that we are actually consulted. If they want to go out on a limb and say that they have consulted the general motoring population, we want to make sure that we're out there in that mix.
No, certainly. I know, I understand that. There's a couple of things here that you've brought to my attention that I wasn't aware of. Before we get into that, let's just have a quick chat about Smidsy.
Sure.
Sorry, mate, I didn't see you. So that's what the acronym stands for?
Yes.
SMIDSY. Sorry, mate, I didn't see you. Tell us a bit. That is a well-documented phenomenon, if I said that word correctly.
You certainly did, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's all sorts of different theories behind what causes it, but I guess it all boils down to a lack of attention on our roads and a focus on other tasks quite often is usually the root cause of that.
When you say other tasks, you're referring to potentially mobile phone use, or
I mean, could all sorts of things.
Anything that takes your attention off your surrounds and the situations going on around you.
As simple as what am I going to have for lunch today, or I'm late for the meeting, and just mind elsewhere.
Would late model cars have an influence there?
It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it's probably too early to tell the total difference that we'd experience from that. But I guess with the advent of all of these driver aids, I should say, cross traffic alerts and things like that, it'll probably assist riders, because mechanical vision sees things differently. They don't have the inattentional blindness that drivers do, which is human error. And that's the root, or the majority cause of motorcycle fatalities in Western Australia, and in fact throughout most of the world, is driver error from inattentional blindness.
Yeah. So the only reason why I say that is I've always felt that Android CarPlay, or Android whatever that one's called, and Apple CarPlay is really. I mean, you get your map up on the dash there as well. Its default is Google Maps, and I think. Yeah, it's fraught with danger. I mean, it's great to have in the vehicle, but it is fraught with danger. And I don't know if there's a correlation. You guys would probably know a bit more about that. We're going to take a short break here shortly, but when we get back, I want to talk about the case study regarding John. So that's really important. We need to talk about that. So we'll have a quick break here, and when we get back, we'll talk about the case study that you guys have researched. Okay, Talking Power Podcast, episode 117. We're on 88.5 FM with The Valley Comes Alive and podcasting on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud.
I haven't tested you for a while, have I? No.
Why?
I'm just saying I haven't tested you for a while. What else we put? I think that's about it for now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's it. It goes out wherever you get your podcast from. We're there. So.
And your website too.
Yeah.
talkingpower.com.au.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, James.
You can get there. Before we went to the break, we just said we'll have want to have a talk about the case study you've done here. Sadly, this gentleman John passed away from a motor vehicle accident. I was amazed by the outcome of that. The driver that was at fault there. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Then it's a case study that was some time ago. Well, it was only 2 years ago, wasn't it, or 3 years ago?
Yeah, I mean it's only recently, I guess, been published and gone through the legal system, so to speak. So it was a few years ago now. But
sorry, it was only June. It's a year ago. Sorry, it's
a year ago.
Yeah.
It's only just recently, I guess, come into public view. So. This case study, I'll stress, is not an isolated incident. This sort of thing happens every day, just about.
Mm-hmm.
In actual fact, I chose to ride my bike to work today because it was the first fine day we've had in ages, and I got pulled out on. Just going down Manning Road, doing the speed limit, nothing else. Car just comes out, doesn't look.
Yeah.
Got to slam on the brakes. So, could have quite easily not made it here tonight. And it's just as simple as that. You don't have to be doing anything wrong. I know there's a camp of people that see motorcyclists as hoons or louts or larrikins or whatever that are, putting their own lives in danger, and, they see a bike that's making, loud noises as they go splitting up the freeway sort of thing. And yes, there is an element of that. It's not necessarily, I guess, the issue that a lot of people can see it as. Of course, it gives them a fright and it gives them a negative opinion towards motorcyclists, but for the most part, the vast majority of motorcyclists are all out there doing the right thing and looking after their own safety as well.
Yeah.
Now, in the case of John, the issues we call to light here are it was a sunny day. There was no view obstructions. There was no other mitigating factors, no alcohol, no drugs, no speeding, nothing like that. And the car pulled out on him, and unfortunately there was a collision, and he did unfortunately pass away. Now, what is the biggest issue here for us is that although that he had charges laid against him, there was no case, I guess, pursued by the prosecutor.
Yeah. Yep.
So
there was no. Yeah. So even though the police laid charges against the driver following the collision, nothing was proceeded on with by the Director of Public Prosecution. That is mind blowing. What do you think would be the root cause of why the DPP wouldn't go after something like that?
There's all sorts of reasons, I guess, but I suppose the main recurring theme that we're seeing is the driver just made a mistake, a momentary lapse of judgment, and that's considered okay. You can have an occasional lapse of judgment. You might permanently disfigure or disable someone, or they might lose their lives, but it's okay because you made a mistake. And that's definitely the train of thought that a lot of the general public has. It's okay to, turn around in the car and chastise your children that are in the back seat, or it's okay to, reach down and grab something out of your bag, or it's okay to just quickly check that text message, even despite the fact of the the huge fines that are potentially in place. Might I mention as well that all of these things are actually illegal. They're considered careless driving under the Road Traffic Act and can carry significant penalties. Thousands and thousands of dollars or jail term. The only mandatory penalty is a 3-month license suspension, and quite often we see the minimum fines handed down.
Yep.
I think, and quite often the onus of responsibility is hoisted onto riders, or you choose to ride. You choose to throw yourself onto this machine, and you choose to take your risks every single time you fire up your bike. Frankly, that's not quite good enough.
No.
I can't fathom how anyone in their right mind can actually hold that opinion in good faith. It just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. No. I'm going to pose the question, and you won't be able to answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think if it was another vehicle that had crashed, it was 2 vehicles, and do you think, for argument's sake, there was a fatality, do you think the result would have been the same? In terms of the DBP not pursuing?
I think you're right. It is difficult to answer that one.
Yeah, you probably can't. I mean, but I would suggest vehicle on vehicle, there would be a case.
I mean, there was a very recent example just last weekend, in fact, where a car pulled out on another car, and unfortunately one of the occupants has lost their life. It's actually a well-known member of the motoring community, in actual fact. And it'll be, I guess, not interesting. It's obviously tragic, but it'll be something that we're definitely following closely to I guess, contrast and compare the differences there. But there's no straightforward answer. Obviously, every case has its own individual factors and all sorts of things. There's speed, there's drugs, there's fatigue, there's inattention, there's all of this stuff. So it's very rare to find 2 cases that are exactly alike. And different penalties get handed down to different cases, but I guess we can only look back on this evidence, and in the case of John, there was no formal charges that were proceeded with in this example.
A figure here that staggers me is this one I've highlighted here. 50.4% of motorcycle accidents are caused by drivers of other vehicles, and generally speaking, they're ones that do not hold a motorcycle license. That is a staggering figure.
Yeah, so I will point out here that statistic is from a study called the Motorcycle Accident In-Depth Study, which was conducted in Europe. So this isn't Australian data. However, we've found from the, I guess, limited resources available to us in Australia that it is consistent. And certainly if we look at the areas in Europe that were surveyed for this study, they bear a lot of resemblance to the Australian, I guess, road layout and driver training and all of that. So it's not too far of a reach to say that figure would be very similar here in Western Australia. And I guess the major issue that we have is that the amount of data available to us is very limited. So we can't conclusively say those statistics apply to us here, but we're fairly confident that is the case.
Yeah. Oh, that figure staggered me. Really, it is. That is, it's not in the right proportion, really, and it's
not at all.
Yeah, it's very high, and I wasn't aware of that either. So this is it's. A lot of this is very new to me, and I'm sure it was new for Todd as well. And I know I spoke with Simon on the phone today, and he was staggered by a lot of these figures as well. So
I mean, you all hear, I guess, the major voice of road safety here in Western Australia is the government, obviously, and they are always pushing on motorcyclists need to take individual responsibility, and motorcyclists need to slow down, speed kills, all of this, when in reality the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, we should talk about that as well now. While you mentioned the government as well, so they want to explain what the government are trying to do here. Then, in terms of motor cap.
Sure. So, MotorCap, or Motorcycle Clothing Assessment Program, which is what it's short for, is an initiative that was started by Transport for New South Wales and has been, supported by various different road safety bodies around the country.
Yep.
It's not a bad program in the sense that when it was introduced, there were significant issues with other assessment programs around the world, and it sought to fill a void that existed. Now, since then, the European standards have been updated.
Yep.
And the gap that MotorCap was filling has dried up, I guess.
Yep.
It's sort of serving a redundant purpose now. The issue with continuing to pursue MotorCap alongside the European standards is that you will have eventually multiple standards which A, cause confusion, and B, if there's low adoption, well, the government has already expressed interest in legislating the compulsory display of MotorCap ratings in stores. And Jarrod can speak to this obviously, but if you're implementing that sort of mandatory display at a storefront, that's going to increase costs or it's going to reduce choice. And increasing costs and reducing choice are inevitably bad for motorcyclists.
Yep.
One of the biggest things that we value is at the moment when the sort of it's not unregulated state of the market, but we like having the ability to choose what we want to wear. We like being able to buy something that doesn't necessarily have high-vis flashes across the front and back. High-vis in itself, there's all manner of opinions and sort of research that's been done on the matter, which I'm not going to go into. But once you do place mandatory signage and requirements coming from the motorcycle industry, we are only going to be able to order certain lines from certain manufacturers, and we're already doing this in a world market that's having a tough enough time as it is with supply not being able to match demand. Imagine if we were to even further reduce the ability to supply, costs are going to go through the roof, and a lot of the time people do make their gear choices based on cost. They will go for a $200 jacket that doesn't feature some of the armour inserts or just has a basic foam padding in the elbows and the back protector, as opposed to something a little bit more like a D30 insert. It's just going to become so messy if we go down this path, if we find ourselves at this juncture.
Yep. No, I understand that, and I completely understand. Tell us, just for our listeners, because a lot of our listeners won't understand, helmets are still, that's an Australian standard still?
Not anymore. So the Australian standard for helmets was abolished a number of years ago.
Okay.
In favour of the European standards. So this was an absolutely amazing development for motorcyclists, because it increased the availability of choice and the locations that consumers could go to purchase helmets, as well as obviously reducing costs by the higher availability.
So we're talking CE now?
Yes, that's
okay,
right.
Righto.
ECE, European certification, something.
ECE 2205 is what you will generally find on the majority of helmets. The Snell system became very, very muddied when they tried to bring in two levels of certification, one designed to directly match the ECE 2205 and one to still stick to the Snell manner of testing. It has a lot to do with dropping helmets in a particular manner at a certain speed for the Snell certification, whereas the ECE deals a lot more with rotational forces and more so the impact, skip, bounce style of accident that a motorcyclist helmet generally goes through, as opposed to like a car, a racing driver's helmet, where the impacts are generally going to be the same: side, front, forwards, back.
Yeah, okay. That's probably something our listeners have never even considered. Those like myself that haven't ridden bikes or been exposed to bikes or grew up in that environment probably have never considered the accident that you just said then, where they'll come off the bike and they'll skid along the bitumen for a period of time and then skip, and sorry for the play on words, not the right terminology there, but I understand exactly what you're saying. But a lot of people would just assume it's a sudden stop, and that's what the helmet needs to protect you from. But that is far from the case, isn't it? Yep. We'll take another short break here, and when we come back, I want to talk high vis. So we'll take a short break here, and we'll be back on 88.5 FM with the Talk and Power podcast right after this. All right, welcome back to the Talk and Power podcast, episode 117. We're joined with JMac and James McDonald from Riders Action Group and of WA. It's great to have these guys here talking all things motorbikes. We probably don't focus on motorbikes enough, so I'm glad you guys came along tonight. But just before we went to the break, I wanted to talk high vis, and in some of your data here or some in the commentary here, there's a belief that the high vis doesn't work, or I may have said that wrong. Tell me, it doesn't appear to make any difference to visibility. Is that correct?
In a lot of research, it appears to have a very limited effect. Now, this is, again, like I mentioned earlier, due to a whole range of different potential reasons, and it's not exactly clear as to why, but certainly one of the schools of thought is that the prevalence of high vis, particularly over the last 15, 20 years, has made it to the point where people don't see it anymore. It's the same reason that they changed the reverse beep of a truck from a beep to like the white noise. Sounds like it's broken.
Croaker.
Yeah, because it's a new sound and people are going to go, oh, what's that? Because people just got too used to the beeps and they was having accidents. And same sort of school of thought for high vis. And in addition to that, we don't ride in a vacuum. There's all sorts of different signage and background colours to the road, or I guess the road or road-related areas. Here, there's advertising on side of roads. There's businesses. There's homes. There's the bright background of the sky. If you're riding in the afternoon with the sun directly coming towards you, well, high vis is pretty ineffective at that sort of thing. It can have effects, and it's been found to have limited effect in almost every study. But I suppose the argument that we're saying here is that we don't want high vis to be seen as the catch-all solution.
Yeah.
People are absolutely free to wear whatever they choose, and we don't want to recommend anyone doesn't wear high vis because it does have a limited positive benefit, but in most cases it's found to have no benefit at all.
Yeah. Okay. No, I just needed to ask because some people would find that strange, but I'd take that on. I take that on face value. When I thought about it, you did have a bit of an explanation there, and I think you're right. Over the last 20 years, high vis is everywhere. It's at the airport, it's at the shops, it's everywhere you go now.
We have become desensitised to it. I've got in a past life a background in construction work, and you are hit with so much high vis, so much reflective yellow tape, so many reverse beepers and buzzers and lights and beacons, and somehow we still manage to find ourselves having workplace incidents throughout the country and the world when we have swathed everything in as many different shades of bright yellow and orange that we can get our hands on.
Yeah. No, certainly. I understand. I want to get back to MotorCap then. You mentioned before one of the things, the Minister, Paul Papalia?
That's right.
Correct. He is trying to mandate that in? Am I reading this correctly? He's trying to.
No, there's the public line from the Road Safety Commission, Road Safety Council, and the Minister for Road Safety is that there's no current plans to mandate motocap. I guess it's an academic argument that we're making, which we're using past experiences where the government introduces a new scheme or a new idea. They let people use it. If adoption's low, well, they look at other ways to increase the adoption. So if motocap isn't utilised the way the government wants it to be used, well, there's a potential in the future that they might say, well, let's say the signage has to be on display at stores, and then people still aren't using it. Well, let's make it mandatory in some way, shape or form. And that's it's not something that they are proposing to do at this point in time, at least publicly, but it's certainly something that could happen in the future.
Yeah. Okay. No, I just thought we'd clear that up, that's all.
Yeah, sure. And I guess to clarify again why we don't want that, and we don't want any mandatory gear laws at all, is that different people ride in different ways. So you've got the urban rider that rides at around 50, 60 kilometre an hour roads, very short distances. You've got the tourer rider who rides predominantly highway roads, but usually very low impact, very low chance of coming into collisions with others. Then you've got the enduro and motocross riders and all of that as well. So throughout the different styles of motorcycle riding, there's different gear that applies to different segments of that market.
Yeah.
So in one case you might want gear that's breathable but has really good abrasion resistance if you're going touring.
Yep.
And you might be riding through all sorts of hot, cold weather. You want something that's quick drying. Or you might be doing more, not fast-paced riding on the road in that sense, but you might be doing more potential impactful riding where you're riding through a lot of intersections in built-up areas. And you
like a career, I guess.
Yeah, career, or just general commuting and things like that. You might ride down Mitchell Freeway every day, and you've got all of the merge points and things like that, and you want to have really good protection. You want to have decent weather protection, but the breathability is probably a secondary concern to you. So I suppose the limitations of motocap mean that if the system was implemented to make it mandatory, there would be an overall negative benefit towards motorcyclists because they can't choose the sort of gear that they want to ride.
Riders lose the ability to target and specialise their gear to suit the style of riding that they undertake, and that's essentially boiled down into as few words as possible. Yeah, okay. We wear what we wear because it suits how we're riding.
No, I understand that. That's a fair comment.
I'd like to say, as someone that hasn't ridden for a little while, but that has ridden bikes in the past, I've got 3 different helmets and 2 jackets, and that's
a very slim line of apparel there, mate.
Yeah, but again, I have a summer jacket, and I had a winter jacket, and I had different helmets depending on what I was riding. So it would be, if you narrow it down, that would be very frustrating. So
you also have to consider that, and let's say in a perfect storm of circumstance that yes, motocap comes in, the Australian market overall does not represent the largest of percentages of the global riding population. So let's say a massive international brand like Klim do a whole range of touring specific gear that is very, very high quality, but for them to go out, send off the samples to get tested and approved for any system, let alone motocap, there's going to be a cost-benefit analysis that's going to be made, and ultimately it's going to come down to the manufacturer to go, do we really need to sell to Australia? Do we really need to import into Australia? Do we really need to satisfy this new standard for this one country? Really?
Yeah.
And that's going to happen because all of a sudden we've got, as small on the international scale as it may be, we have a very devoted group of touring riders who now cannot source their, at least by any legal sort of means, cannot source their garment of choice.
Yeah, yep. No, you make a valid point there. That's understand exactly what you're saying. Tell us a little bit then about the work that you guys are doing, campaigning for an amendment to the Road Safety Act. Tell us a little bit about that, because as it stands now, if a motorcyclist a rider is injured by careless driving, it's a term of imprisonment of 6 months, and is this right? $12,000. That's what you got in the notes?
Yeah. So this is back on the Smithy issue again. So again, related to inattentional blindness and careless driving. That's right. That is the maximum term, and 6 months or the fine. However, the minimum is only 3-month license suspension, and almost always the minimum term, or very near the minimum term, is imposed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're campaigning to have that amended.
In the sense that not the maximum terms, we think those are quite sufficient. We're looking at this is an academic discussion at this point, but we're looking at the potential for being careless and causing a collision with a motorcyclist to be considered an aggravating circumstance. So just the same as cyclists are treated like a vulnerable road user group, as much as there is quite public animosity towards them in a lot of cases, or pedestrians, other vulnerable road users. Motorcyclists, in effect, are a vulnerable road user.
Yeah.
So we would like to see something that is imposed to make people pay more attention to what they're doing on the road. And back to what we were discussing at the beginning of the evening here with the public safety campaigns focusing on motorcycles, a public safety campaign focused on car drivers paying attention to motorcyclists is going to have very limited effect unless there's consequences. Unfortunately, that's the way the human brain works.
Yep. No, completely agree. Here's a hot topic. We'll move on. This is a real hot one. I reckon the switchboard at 88.5 FM will light up once this one comes on. The use of bus lanes. So you're advocating for the use of bus lanes.
Yes.
Explain a bit about that, because, I mean, in theory, I have no issue with it. I'm sure Todd has no issue with it, but I can tell you now there will be probably a list of 100 callers that would have issue with that.
I was going to say names then, but I won't. We'll just move along.
But tell us a bit about that, because I mean, in theory, that makes perfectly good sense
logical.
for me. Yep.
Yeah, logic.
So a bit of background first. In 2016, I believe, there was a discussion to trial motorcycles using bus lanes. Fast forward a couple of years, there was a limited trial introduced on a few streets. I think the first one was Beaufort Street, maybe.
Yep.
And then it was later expanded to South Street and a number of other streets around Perth Metro. And this was, again, the idea is that you're getting motorcyclists out of the path of danger, which is putting them in a bus lane, which is a less highly trafficked lane, so that there is, again, less chance of being impacted by other road users. Now, this trial went on for about 2 years, and then following that, the Road Safety Commission, which was responsible for the trial, decided that they didn't want to proceed with implementing this change to the Road Traffic Act, which would allow, obviously, motorcyclists to ride in bus lanes. Now, that was despite there being only one safety issue throughout that entire 2 years. That was attributed to a motorcyclist riding in a bus lane, obviously compared to all of the countless number of collisions and incidents that occurred with motorcyclists not using bus lanes. So the reasons cited by the Road Safety Commission were 2 academic studies. Now, the first academic study was a study based in France, and they found issues with motorcyclists using bus lanes and cars turning from the regular lane across the path of traffic and colliding with a motorcyclist that way. So that wasn't an issue of the motorcyclist using the bus lane. That was an issue again of a other vehicle driver not paying attention and cutting across the lane where there was a vehicle in that lane. Now, obviously, the laws are a bit different here in Australia. If you want to turn across a bus lane, well, you've got to go into the bus lane and then turn. So it's not exactly a comparable situation to the France situation. The second article that they cited was the rapid transit systems around the world, and it was based in cities like Bangladesh, Mexico, Sao Paulo, various other third world country cities. And the kicker of this one was that the study did not mention motorcyclists once in the entire document. So there's some significant procedural issues that have gone on here relating to the trial and the subsequent decline of it. And we, as a motorcycling community, are asking for a properly measured response, looking at the reasons why it was declined, and trying to figure out, because there's no, even the studies that they quoted, there was no factual basis for saying that it couldn't happen. They've just said no because they decided to.
It wasn't applicable.
Yeah.
For the circumstances, it just didn't make sense whatsoever. The road systems are different in the studies that they used, that they cited. The makeup of the style of traffic, the proportion of bikes to cars is different, and just the mind boggles. It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
But somehow we've missed this opportunity to effectively take a whole contingent of the motoring community and give them the opportunity to transit from A to B in a far, far safer manner. It's like we pardon me, but we crack the shits at cyclists who ride in traffic when there's a perfectly good cycle lane. Trust me, if motorcyclists had a lane to use that was going to remove us from the dangers of regular traffic, and it was still convenient and useful, like the bus lanes, we'd use it.
Yeah. I actually didn't realise that the bus lane, South Street, I'd go down that street quite often. So the motorbikes aren't allowed in that bus lane anymore. Have they changed?
Not since last year when they took the signs all down.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I thought that one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I understand what you're saying as well. Like in Australia, like that, in particular that one on South Street, that's quite a heavy road. But if you're turning left, you slide into that bus lane anyway, and it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's even marked, like it goes, the lanes, it goes white prior to you slipping into the, if there's a turn off coming up. It was somehow logical that you'd slip into that lane before you turned left.
I'm not overall familiar with it, but I believe the law says you can travel in a bus lane for up to 250 metres, or it might be 200 metres, prior to making a turn or after making a turn. So there's definitely cause there for that, and you can't just turn from the next adjacent lane straight across into the road.
No.
You don't do that.
No.
Definitely not here.
Well, some people do, but that's another story.
That's another story, and that's a completely different I guess issue altogether. But I guess the one thing, maybe if you're 88.5 FM listeners, that every motorcycle that you take out of the flow of traffic and put in, say, a bus lane or another dedicated lane, well, you're taking them out of the congestion. So you're reducing congestion by allowing this as well. So there's an overall public benefit for getting motorcyclists out of the line of fire, so to speak.
Yeah. No, agreed. We will take a short break. We'll take a short break here, and we'll be back with more. We'll talk more about with JMac and James from Riders Action Group WA right after the break. Okay, welcome back to the Talk and Power podcast, episode 117. We're joined by JMac from the Riders Action Group of WA, and also James McDonald of the Riders Action Group in Western Australia. It's great to have you guys here. Now, another thing, we just spoke about you guys using the bus lane. The other one that, again, makes a sense to me is the provision of parking on footpaths. I think that's an excellent idea. I didn't realise it's legal in Brisbane to do so. So tell us a bit about that and what you're suggesting there.
Well, again, this isn't something that we've spent an incredibly large amount of time on. This is just a nice to have sort of thing that we would like to talk about. Obviously, our main priority is these big safety topics like SMIDSI, but you're right. In other jurisdictions around the country, there are provision for motorcyclists to be able to park on footpaths. Now, obviously, due to the diminutive size of a motorcycle, it's fairly low impact when this is done, particularly in CBD locations which have quite wide footpaths.
Yeah.
And again, the benefits here are close by parking for motorcyclists who suffer from, I guess, increased rates of motorcycle theft, as well as being able to cover your bike with the shade of buildings and things like that.
Yeah.
And we don't have a nice air-conditioned car to get into at the end of the day. We're a lot of us, dressed up in full leather gear or textile gear. It doesn't always breathe the best, and even breathable gear on a 50-degree day in middle of January, February, in rush hour traffic, it's not the nicest thing, but a lot of us that ride, particularly into the CBD areas, we ride because of again, a personal choice. Obviously, we like riding, or it might be a cost thing entirely. I know that the costs of parking in Perth City are quite high, and same with public transport as well. And motorcycles are just an alternative means of transport and a very legitimate form of transport, obviously. So the idea from allowing the parking on footpaths is, rather than taking away car bays, we can just use infrastructure that already exists, and it will have very minimal impact to other users of the footpaths and the surrounding road areas.
Yeah, you would know the data on this, but I'll ask it anyway. Motorcycle theft, it's a real thing, isn't it? I mean, and it's very. I don't think many people realise how easy. I shouldn't say that, but motorcycle theft, like JMac's come here tonight and we've wheeled the bike in to the warehouse, not because you made a very valid point, because you just don't know. It's quite easy to just literally walk away with a motorcycle. I know they have locks and whatnot, but yeah, it's a real thing, isn't it?
Just on that, coming from the position of a motorcycle salesman, we make an incredible number of sales of anti-theft devices, whether it's brake disc locks, whether it's chains, whether it's alarmed locks, bike covers, the whole lot. It's very, very often that we will actually ask a prospective customer, do you have plans to secure your bike? Oh yeah, I want to see what you've got. And 9 times out of 10 you will actually make a sale over it. It is very front of mind for customers, motorcycle riders and users, that yes, we have a vehicle that is much easier to have pilfered than your everyday car.
Yeah, most certainly. No, definitely. The other thing as well, I know in recent times we've seen a reduction in, as you know, James, you and I talked ad infinitum about this particular subject, but a reduction, in registration of motor vehicles for classic vehicles that were produced before 1990. I'm not suggesting that's what you're suggesting to be the same thing here, but you make a very valid argument. If we're going to use some of that model, we could apply some of that to your next point as well, which was you're going to campaign to have registration costs of bikes reduced in recognition of the fact that their use, wear and tear on the infrastructure in Australia is significantly less. So tell us a bit about that, what your train of thought there is.
Yeah, again, this isn't something we've pursued in depth, but certainly there's been examples around the the country and the world of cheaper registration costs for motorcycles, and I guess the main reasoning behind this, or the main argument for it, is that motorcycles serve a particular benefit to road congestion, accessibility of buildings and things like that. So motorcycles already are cheaper than cars because the registration system in Western Australia is based on weight. So you've got per 100 kilograms you pay a fee depending on the type of vehicle. So there is a benefit as well, but this is certainly something that gets asked about quite frequently by the members of the riding public. Is can we see more of a benefit to motorcyclists? And it's a method or a mechanism to try and encourage more motorcycles to get on the road, and the more people that get out of a car and get into a motorcycle, well, that serves to benefit the prevalence of motorcycles in the state, which means that they're more front of mind for other drivers because they see motorcycles more frequently. It reduces congestion, it reduces all of these, it reduces pollution, reduces all of these other things that are good for the government, good for the state, I guess, in the whole.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think I can see tangible benefits there, especially if we can get the uptake of motorcycles as well. I mean, every motorcycle purchased, correct me if I'm wrong, GST goes back to the federal government, and stamp duty goes back to the state government. Correct me if I'm wrong.
3.15% stamp duty, 10% GST.
Adds up.
Absolutely.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. So and if we can, I think a lot of people lose sight of the fact that if you do offer them some sort of concession or benefit, we'll call it, on their registration, the uptake on it might be, you will have an uptake in
that was our whole argument with concessions for classics.
Yeah.
The cheaper the rego, the more cars you're going to get out on the road, and the better policy or public benefits overall. We were talking about more classic cars at shows, and we're talking about better benefits for charities and things like that that are supported by the shows. So there's certainly I guess there's a relationship and correlation between the arguments. There is that cheaper registration equals more vehicles on the road, and more vehicles on the road has other public benefits.
Yeah, most certainly. Before we finish up, guys, tell us a bit about the Brown Review as well. I know you made mention of that as well. This is a staggering statistic, this one here. In 1990, Western Australia was the second safest state in terms of for motorcyclists. By 2012, we've become almost the worst. So, in your mind, is that the Road Safety Act not working? Something not working there? What's caused us to go in 22 years to go from being one of the best to one of the worst in Australia?
So that statement there was an extract from the Brown Review, which was published in 2015, directed towards the Office of Road Safety at the time, which was part of the Main Roads Department. And overall, that report was fairly scathing. This section was here for more general background of some of the issues that we're seeing with our approach to road safety, and we're seeing a lot of blockers from the organisation that's supposed to be for road safety. So there's obvious issues with the approach that we've taken towards road safety. I think earlier in the document that I sent you, you might be able to see 74% of road fatalities in Western Australia are in regional areas. But when's the last time you saw a public education campaign dedicated towards regional road safety? There's Roadwise, which is a travelling show, so to speak, which goes out into regional areas and talks about things like wearing your seatbelt and the importance of not consuming alcohol and all the likes of that. But
I think I remember seeing that when I was at school.
It's
been around for a long time.
Yeah, been around for a long time, and Roadwise serves quite a very important purpose, I guess. But the vast majority of public money goes into metropolitan road safety campaigns. That's where the most people are, but that's not where the most of the problem is.
Yeah.
I suppose the road safety issue more generally is something that we're certainly concerned about, although what impact a group of motorcyclists is going to have on the overall road safety is probably quite minimal, but it's certainly important that people are educated and aware of these issues that we're facing.
Yeah. In your notes here, you say on the Road Safety Council, I may have this wrong, but it's made you need to have representation from road users in there. Currently, that's with the RAC.
Yes, at the moment, the Road Safety Act is legislated that there is one representative for road users, which is currently held by the member of the Royal Australian Car Club, or RAC. There is no scope, I guess, at the moment for any other road users to be represented. So the Road Safety Council is made up of predominantly government groups, and in fact the groups that it's made up of are the groups that usually benefit from the money from the Road Trauma Trust account. I guess I'm not accusing them of corruption, but certainly there is a huge possibility for that to become the case, and that was highlighted by the independent review here by Brown in 2015, that he would like to see a lot more representation for road user groups, and the recommendation was that the group, as the Road Safety Council, should be made up of predominantly civilian members rather than governmental members.
No, I agree 100%. I was actually staggered by that, to be honest. I didn't believe, I didn't realise, that in terms of users, it was only represented by the RAC. And we're not suggesting that the RAC doesn't have the best interest of motorcyclists.
No, but we're not suggesting anything like that. But what we are saying is that, and what Brown is saying, we don't have to say it, is that when you have one representative for an entire road user group, well, they have to pick, I guess, the path of least resistance in essence. So that's going to be who makes the most impact, and that's car drivers. Yeah. They're the majority, vast majority on the road. And the needs of pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists, and other road users, truck drivers, all of that gets somewhat sidelined.
Yeah, I don't think they have the best interest of all those other groups at heart.
It's an unenviable job to try and be the representative for all road users. It's an impossible task.
Yeah, especially even I'm not just talking about motorcycle. I'm talking about heavy haulage and all sorts of vehicles that aren't really. The RAC, I don't think, would be a good representative. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, it's not their target market. It's not their focus, and that's fine. But we would like to see, and again reflected by the Brown Review, would like to see more representative approach.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, we'll take another short break here, but when we come back, we'll just we'll finish off. But yeah, take a short break here, and we'll be back with more right after this. Okay, Talk of Power podcast, episode 117. James is rocking the table there. He's getting all worked up. Before we finish up, JMac, tell us. We should have started off. You're back. You're off the microphone now. You've done. Is it 2 seasons or one?
No, we've done one season of drag racing.
Yep.
Perth Motorplex.
Tell us how that's going, because a lot of our listeners are drag racers, so they'll be interested to know how you went this season.
Oh, look, we had one race win, and that was due to our good friend and pit bay partner Simon Garbutt having a mechanical on the start line, we still celebrated like we'd won the championship. Because your first win, especially for it to come in your rookie season when you've got people that have been racing for 10, 15 years, 20 years, telling you I didn't have a race win for at least 3 seasons, and you've nailed one, or you've been gifted one in your first season. It was pretty cool. The bug definitely hit, and we have upgraded from the Auto Pro Bentley CBR 929 and are now going to be riding the 2004 Kawasaki ZX10. Still in modified bike. But we've set our sights to go almost a full or over a full second quicker on this bike. So it's got a pedigree. It's come all the way over from Queensland. And we've nailed down a few new sponsors, biggest of which is actually my current employer, Savage Motorcycles. And we've got a couple others in the pipeline that we're looking to add to the fold.
No, it's awesome. Mod bike, I don't think people realise how difficult mod bike is.
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard. We had our first season, and we've laid a lot of really good groundwork. We've ironed out some kinks, and now we're ready to actually go fast and contest and be a force to be reckoned with. And full fields as well in mod bike, so there's none of this 4-car field business, so it's often there's like 20 sometimes, usually 20 to 25
bikes in mod bikes, so it's competitive out there.
Absolutely.
And I know another guest on the podcast, Luke Newhoff, kicked off in mod bike. Super Street mod bike. I can't remember which one he did first, but
Luke was. I'm pretty sure he was mod bike.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
He dabbled in Super Street as well for a little while, but he'll be listening. He'll correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, he'll correct both of us. That's why we love him.
Yeah. So you're enjoying the shift from you were in the commentary team for many years.
10 years.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I did
it was
a
a
whole
long
decade
time
at the Perth Motorplex, and then decided enough was enough. I hadn't actually raced, so I figured I was going to do something a little more than the old whoop-ass Wednesday, and jumped on and absolutely loved it. A lot of support from good friends and my partner Zoe, and we're ready to come back, do it again.
That's good. No, that's good to hear. It's good to hear. Tell us a bit of some of the other things you're doing. You did a little bit of commentary work. You do a lot of a lot of commentary work around the state, not even around the nation as well. You've done a fair bit of work. So tell us what you're up to.
At the moment, it's a very motorcycle centric sort of scope of work. Really, I'm the state championship motocross announcer, both for juniors and for seniors. I do a lot of work for Dirt High Promotions, which is the Management 15,000, and the very successful Brookton Pony Express series for Willie Thompson. Pre-COVID, I was a pit lane reporter for the High Tech Oils Drift All Stars series, which was the closest thing that we had to a national drift series. As well as at that time, I was also doing a lot of commentary for the local drift series for both clubs at the time. Since pulled away from that. Also a lot of work with Supermoto WA. I'm currently the one of the announcers for the Motorcycle Racing Club of WA for their state championship series. Unfortunately, I'll miss round 4 of the AGV Helmets State Road Racing Championships. Probably back for round 5. And for the rest of the season.
Done it all. It's magnificent.
Give it a shot.
You've done really well. You've done very, very well. So congratulations to you. And we'll be watching Mod Bike very closely this season.
Watch me make a ham-fisted attempt to try and get some points. We'll see how we go.
No, it sounds good. Hey, James, what are you up to these days? You still, I know you're keeping busy. Any other things you're working on at the moment?
Sure. We're just going through a whole lot of legislative change at work at the moment. So got my head down with learning the ropes of all of that, and we're just working along with the usual events that we're up to, and doing the best we can for the community. As always, that's the goal.
For those that didn't put 2 and 2 together, it's James McDonald from Shannon's that we're talking with at the moment. But he's not representing Shannon's tonight. He can be if he wants to. It doesn't worry me. But he's representing the Riders Action Group of WA along with JMac tonight. And it was great to have you guys in. Tell us, the Facebook page, I've been on there. It looks great. Where can we find further information, or it's just the Facebook page at this stage?
Yeah, just the Facebook page at this stage, which you can find at ragwa.org, and it redirects there. Otherwise, you can email us. The details, contact details, are all on our page, or you can message us on Facebook as well. Is an option. We're working towards, as many different things as we can with the limited resources available to us at the moment. So, we have to make some, I guess, administrative decisions to focus on what's really important right now.
Yeah.
But certainly keep an eye out for us for things in the future. And if you've got ideas, suggestions, or thoughts, comments as a motorcyclist here in WA, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah,
I think that's the real point of what we're trying to do. We're trying to make as much noise as we can to and make sure that we are trying to be as collaborative and consultative as possible to actually go that 1, 2 or 5 steps further than the people who've gone before us, and actually try and source the true opinions and needs of the people that are out there.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a magnificent job. I'll take my hat off to you guys, and I wish you all the very best. And one other, how do you find the time? You guys work full time, racing, especially you, JMac. I mean, how do you?
It's tough. The calendar is pretty much blocked in. There's a whole bunch of colours and I don't even know what goes on. Luckily, I've got a wonderful girlfriend who handles most of it for me, and I just be like, so what are we doing this weekend? Right, we're going to Chidlow. Off we go.
And even you, James, as well. Like every weekend, I don't think people realise like the commitment that people at Shannon's do on weekends.
Well, my calendar looks like about 50 odd events a year.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are multi-day events and preparation that goes into that. So certainly I'm all over the place and don't really have many weekends to myself. But that's all part of the passion that drives us behind Shannon's. So, we do something we love and it's great. And the fact that Shannon's affords me the ability to be able to do administrative stuff like this for RAGWA. Occasionally as part of work time, because Shannon's again recognises the importance of protecting motorist rights and motoring enthusiast rights in throughout the country.
Tell us quickly your bikes as well. Just quickly, tell us.
Well, at the moment I've only got 2 bikes. My Yamaha that I had was stolen. So speaking about motorcycle theft, they broke through the glass and
that's right. You
walked
told
away
me
with
about
it.
That. I can't believe that.
Was your WI set up as a motard? Or
it was set up as a motard. So that was a bit heartbreaking because I really loved that bike and I put a lot of hours into it, along with actually one of the guys that's on the management group. He helped me rebuild it and big bore it and do all sorts of things. So it was a great bike. But at the moment, my main rider is a KTM 690 SMCR, which is a factory super motard. I like the super motards. It allows you to have a bit of fun on the road in terms of you can throw it into corners and that sort of thing, and not worry too much about crashing it or going too fast and that sort of thing. So it's a really nice sort of riding style, I guess you could say. My other bike's just a Yamaha R3, which is just kind of belongs to my missus, but I get on and ride it occasionally. So.
No, that's all right. JMac, tell us, run us through your. I know you've got a bit of an elaborate collection there.
All right, so we have the postie bike, the race bike that I try and find time to race with Supermoto WA as part of their postie bike championship. We've got the 2000 CBR 929 Fireblade. That's all done up in Auto Pro Bentley colours because that was my rookie race bike. We've got the ZX10, so that's got an extended swing arm, air shift, Shinko rear tyre on it, Power Commander 3 with a tune and a Sidewinder exhaust. Where my ride that I'm on tonight, I'm on a CRF 450 motard, which is a whole heap of fun. Again, you can get up to the speed limit fairly quickly and kind of runs out of puff shortly after that, so you're not really sort of pushing it absolutely crazy, but that's mine. I've got my old man's early 2000s KX 252 stroke sitting in the shed at home at the moment. I've also got a 1200 Bandit for some of the longer country rides, and my girlfriend has a little neo retro sort of Suzuki TU 250X. It's a perfect learner bike. I occasionally steal that and ride it to work. I think I Oh, gee, I think I did maybe 250 Ks on about 7 litres
Wow.
worth of fuel. And it's just a great little commuter bike, little EFI 250 single cylinder. And my girlfriend's got a little Yamaha DT 230. And hopefully nobody knows where I live, because maybe I need to come and talk to you about taking out a policy, James. It's actually quite concerning to hear them rattled off like that.
I'll tell you what, that is an extensive list there, but it's
collection.
We've got a leg in just about every single camp, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, except for cruisers. I can't do cruisers.
But that one you came on tonight, that's magnificent. That does look like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
The cool thing about them, and the CRF's a heavy bike to begin with, but we're talking sort of 130, 140 kilos, whereas what's a middleweight sports bike, we're talking 180.
180, yeah.
Yeah, about 180 kilos. I'll be pushing out probably about 55 horsepower, but with so much less weight.
Yeah.
They're just awesomely responsible, and you can do so much with gearing on them.
Yeah.
Make them behave how you want.
For those not familiar with a super motard, if you want to equate it to a car, it's probably a little bit like a Hyundai Excel. So there's not much you can do to really damage them all that badly. So you're not really concerned about breaking them, and they're not that fast. But they've got a bit of acceleration behind them as well, and they're not that heavy. So, they're a bit of an all-round fun car, and that's why you see Excel Racing Cups and things like that nowadays.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, James. Thanks for that. All right, guys. Well, look, thanks for joining us on the podcast. It's great to have you here. It's great to see you again, JMac, and of course, it's great to see you as well, James, as well. Todd, thanks for coming along as well.
That's right.
And,
Special comments in the corner tonight.
But yeah, it was great to have you guys here, and we'll no doubt see you in the near future. And if we do go to an event, and we'll catch up with you there, no doubt. You guys do events at all? Any sort of?
I suppose we could quickly plug the celebration of motorsport and Shannon's Classics on the Swan, which is coming up.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The 19th of September, Maclean Park. It's part of Targa West. It's a great day. Everyone should come down and have a look.
Yes. Definitely. All right, guys. Look, thanks for joining us. It's great to have you here, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having us.
No worries.
Thank
See ya.
Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Now on 88.5 FM, The Valley Comes Alive. And podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.